Fake HOA cops trespassed on my ranch. Too bad. I'm a U.S. Army vet with zero patience for fakes. Have you ever encountered someone so utterly convinced of their own authority, they'd trespass on private land, pretending to be law enforcement, just to enforce a rule that doesn't even exist? The crisp morning air on my ranch, High Mesa Ranch, was usually filled with the sounds of wind rustling through the pines and the distant lowing of my cattle. After 2 tours in Afghanistan, the isolation and rugged beauty of this land in rural Arizona were my peace. I, Sergeant First Class, retired, Ben Carter, had bought this acreage years ago specifically for its remoteness and independence. My closest neighbor was miles away, and the nearest development was a small, exclusive community called Desert Bloom Estates, nestled in a valley far below. My property line was clearly marked by robust fencing and no trespassing signs that had stood for decades. Then came Karen, not with a polite phone call, but with a brazen, uniformed intrusion. I was fixing a broken fence post near the southern boundary when I saw it. A black SUV, styled to look vaguely like a patrol vehicle, pulling up. 2 figures, in ill-fitting, pseudo-tactical uniforms and reflective sunglasses, stepped out. One of them, a tall, gaunt woman with a severe bob and an air of unmistakable self-importance, was Karen Thorne, the infamous, self-proclaimed Chief of Community Standards for Desert Bloom Estates. "Mr. Carter," she barked, her voice echoing unnaturally across the quiet mesa. "We've received, shall we say, concerns regarding your property. Your cattle are encroaching on the scenic vista from our residents' homes. Your rustic fencing is an eyesore, and your general presence is not in keeping with the upscale aesthetic of Desert Bloom Estates. This is a formal inspection. We're issuing you a notice of noncompliance." Immediately, the main conflict, audacious and deeply insulting, was laid bare. Karen, armed with absurd, subjective standards and a dangerously inflated sense of authority, was attempting to dictate the operations of my private ranch, a property completely outside her HOA's jurisdiction. Her demands were not only baseless, but rooted in a profound disdain for rural life and a pathological need for control. Her attitude was one of utter contempt, believing her personal preferences granted her the right to intrude and impose rules on sovereign land. I stared at her, my military training kicking in, assessing the threat. My patience, a commodity honed by years in combat zones, was razor thin. "Ma'am," I said, my voice low and dangerously calm, "you are trespassing on private property. This is High Mesa Ranch. We are not, nor have we ever been, part of your HOA. Your jurisdiction ends at the highway, 5 miles from here." I pointed to a prominent, legal, no trespassing sign, riddled with bullet holes from target practice. I even offered to show them my survey maps and deeds, which clearly predated their entire development by 50 years. Karen, however, merely sneered, her companion, a beefy man with a poorly trimmed beard, puffing out his chest. "Mr. Carter, your private property is impacting the value of our homes. We have legal authority to ensure harmonious integration of surrounding landscapes. Your no trespassing signs are, frankly, quite aggressive and unwelcoming. You have 24 hours to begin removing your livestock from sight and replacing this unsightly fence with a more decorative one, or face daily fines of $10,000 and formal legal action to force compliance." Her tone was chillingly arrogant, her eyes holding a glint of perverse pleasure, as if she enjoyed wielding this illegitimate power. The fines began arriving via unrequested certified mail, ludicrous demands for sums that would cripple any honest rancher. Karen openly boasted on local social media groups about how she was civilizing the wild fringes of their community. Then, her audacity escalated into a direct, dangerous act of sabotage. One evening, under the guise of wildlife management, Karen, with her 2 uniformed officers, illegally entered my land. They didn't just trespass, they deliberately cut several sections of my barbed wire perimeter fence, specifically targeting the enclosures holding my pregnant heifers. They then scattered a large amount of a highly toxic, non-native plant species, known to be lethal to cattle, directly into my main grazing pasture. It was a calculated, malicious act designed to harm my livestock, disrupt my livelihood, and force me to sell my ranch. Right after discovering the severed fence and the poisonous plants, a crucial twist unfolded from an unexpected source. My old Army buddy, Mac McMillan, a retired Special Operations comms expert who lived an even more secluded life than I did, happened to be visiting. He was setting up a new long-range wildlife monitoring system, testing some experimental sensors. He rushed over, his face grim. "Ben, your fence wasn't cut by deer. I picked up some faint thermal signatures last night. 3 individuals. One distinct, tall female. They lingered by the wire, then moved into the pasture. My experimental audio sensors caught some snippets too, talking about teaching that redneck a lesson and making sure those cows don't last the week." His system, designed for military-grade reconnaissance, had captured crystal-clear thermal images of Karen and her 2 officers cutting the fence and scattering the plants, along with damning audio of their malicious intentions. The larger consequence of Karen's actions became terrifyingly clear. My herd wasn't just my livelihood. A significant portion of my cattle were part of a federally funded veterinary research program at the University of Arizona, studying advanced disease resistance in livestock crucial for national food security. Her deliberate poisoning of my pasture and endangering my pregnant heifers wasn't just a petty act of vandalism. It directly jeopardized a critical national agricultural science initiative and threatened the potential loss of invaluable genetic material, escalating my personal grievance to a matter of profound national importance and food safety. Armed with Mac's irrefutable thermal footage and audio, the furious university research team, and my own burning sense of justice, I scheduled an informal community meeting at the local Grange Hall, inviting not just the ranchers, but also the residents of Desert Bloom Estates. Karen, radiating her usual icy confidence, arrived late, flanked by her smirking officers and a high-priced lawyer, clearly believing this was just another nuisance to be dealt with. "Mr. Carter," she purred, taking the stage, "I trust you've assembled everyone to finally apologize for your deplorable property and the imposition on our community." She smiled, a predatory gleam in her eyes, assuming I was broken. "No, Karen," I retorted, my voice steady and unwavering. "I've assembled everyone to expose your criminal acts and your shocking disregard for national food security." I projected Mac's thermal footage onto the large screen. The room erupted in shocked murmurs as Karen's direct involvement in cutting my fences and poisoning my pasture unfolded. The audio, played through the hall's speakers, clearly captured her malicious intent. Karen's face contorted in disbelief, then pure, unadulterated rage. "That's manipulated. That man is a veteran with PTSD, clearly hallucinating. His evidence is worthless. This is a malicious attack on my character and the HOA's integrity," she shrieked, desperately trying to manipulate the situation, her voice shrill and breaking. She pointed at Mac, openly accusing him of mental instability, and then at me, calling me a dangerous, unhinged recluse. Just as her tirade reached its peak, the doors to the Grange Hall swung open, and strode not just Sheriff Brody, but also 2 stern-faced agents from the FBI, and, surprisingly, the dean of the University of Arizona's College of Veterinary Medicine, looking absolutely furious. The dean spoke first, her voice cold and cutting. "Ms. Thorne, your actions have directly jeopardized a federally funded livestock research program. This is a severe criminal act with potentially catastrophic implications for national food security. The university will be pursuing the maximum charges against you." One of the FBI agents stepped forward. "And Ms. Thorne, we've also been investigating reports of widespread fraudulent activities within the Desert Bloom Estates HOA, specifically regarding the unauthorized collection of security fees and the operation of a private, unregulated community police force that appears to be involved in intimidation tactics and extortion. Your officers, Ms. Thorne, are not licensed security personnel, nor do they have any legal authority. Furthermore, we have evidence of significant sums of HOA funds being diverted to offshore accounts linked to your shell corporations." A nervous murmur rippled through the room as Karen's chief of security, the beefy man, clearly terrified, stammered to the FBI agent. She told us we were deputized. She said it was private law enforcement for the HOA. We had no idea the money was going to her family offshore. It was a chilling revelation. Karen wasn't just a busybody. She was systematically using her HOA position to create a fake private police force, extort funds through fraudulent security fees, and harass property owners to expand her influence, all while funneling millions into her own pockets. Her animosity towards my ranch was merely a test of her illegitimate power. A past incident, whispered among the older Desert Bloom residents, revealed that Karen had been previously fired from a county government position for attempting to establish an unauthorized private militia for a rural land trust. The consequences for Karen Thorne were immediate and utterly devastating. She was arrested by Sheriff Brody and the FBI agents on multiple charges, including felony animal endangerment, criminal trespassing, operating a fraudulent security organization, impersonating law enforcement, and later, as the full extent of the fraud was uncovered, for massive embezzlement, wire fraud, and racketeering. The Desert Bloom Estates HOA was placed under immediate state and federal oversight, its assets frozen, and a full forensic audit exposed tens of millions in stolen funds, a systematic scheme orchestrated by Karen and her network. Her carefully cultivated image as the benevolent community leader shattered into irreparable pieces. The residents she had once intimidated now turned on her, furious at being manipulated and extorted, their HOA funds stolen. Her social circles, built on an illusion of wealth and influence, abandoned her completely, unwilling to be associated with such public disgrace. Her vast real estate holdings, her fortune, her status, her perceived power all confiscated as part of the ongoing investigation and subsequent lawsuits. She lost everything: her freedom, her fortune, and her reputation. The ultimate irony was that her audacious attempt to harass my ranch led to the complete unraveling of her vast, illegal enterprise. As for High Mesa Ranch, it thrived. My cattle were safe, the toxic plants removed, and the fences reinforced. That evening, as the sun set over the mesa, I watched as a convoy of real sheriff's vehicles and university trucks rolled onto my property, not to threaten, but to offer support and thanks. The FBI agents left behind a special commendation for Mac and me. The satisfaction was immense, a quiet triumph of genuine authority and unwavering resolve over arrogant pretense and outright criminality. What's your take on this? When someone goes to such extreme lengths, impersonating authority and endangering lives for personal gain, does their complete and utter downfall truly serve justice? Or is there a point where the consequences become too extreme?